Lois, everything you've written since you've been here may be full of passion and misspelled words, but they all tear something down. Sometimes those things deserve it, sometimes they don't. Sometimes, believe it or not, something that looks good is actually that. Good. Lois Lane, like the two other major characters in this movie, is more than meets the eye. There are really two major sides to Lois. First, there's the tough side that comes to mind first whenever anyone thinks of the character. She's very driven and wants to prove herself as a reporter. Even with her focus on her career, she still has a good sense of integrity. In her job, she sees a lot of the negativity in the world, so she's grown to be a very guarded and distrusting person. Lois tends to see Clark as an annoyance. She doesn't treat him very well, so both Clark and the audience see Lois's personality as kind of abrasive near the beginning of the movie. She doesn't really buy into the lies that Lex Luthor has put out to fool the world into believing that he's a good person. She has a strong desire to figure out the truth and expose Lex for the evil person that she knows he is. When Superman arrives, Lois has a natural interest in him as a story, but she isn't exactly as quick to jump on the Superman popularity bandwagon as some people. When she goes to interview Superman, she fully expects to drill him like she would anyone else and prove that this guy really is too good to be true. I think this is different than what has been done before, but it really makes sense. In Superman the movie and many other versions, Lois seems to fall for Superman right after he saves her and has shown what he can do. Having her so taken with him so soon, to me, makes it seem like she's more attracted to him for what he can do than the good person he is. This brings me to the other side of Lois. When Lois actually sits down to talk to Superman, she's taken aback when she realizes that he's such a genuinely good and caring person that really wants to help other people. She begins to let her guard down and show Clark who she really is. And as they get to know each other, Clark sees that the rude, pushy Lois Lane that he thought he knew is really about as much of a disguise as the mild-mannered Clark Kent that she thinks she knows. Well, deep down, Lois is a very caring person. As they get to know each other, they really start to feel a connection. And because Clark feels comfortable around her, he's able to be himself. Superman renews Lois's belief that there's good in the world and helps her to find more of a balance between her tough side and her inner kindness. When she reaches this point, she's still a very strong character, but she comes off as less of a bitch. Lois should have attitude and spunk, but still be likable. Her feelings for Superman grow from the time she meets him, so when Lex begins his scheme to make people think that Superman can't be trusted, she doesn't believe it. This kind of shows that she's come a long way over the course of the movie. She starts off looking for the bad in everything, but now she's come to the point where she wants to believe in good. Lois doesn't abandon Superman and cares enough to risk her life to save him. My parents lived above a newsstand. Every morning I'd sneak down and buy a copy of the Daily Planet. I'd cut out every picture in it. I'd scrapbook after scrapbook of all these interesting places. I made a picture in my head of Metropolis, but like most of my photographs, it was out of focus. I don't really have much to say about how they should do Jimmy in this movie, other than I just want to see more of him. Give him more of a backstory and show more of why he wants to be a photographer. In Superman Secret Origins, Jimmy revealed to Superman that his parents didn't really believe that he could make it in Metropolis. This is a really interesting idea because it sets up a motivation for Jimmy and shows that he wants to prove himself and become someone great. Most of the scenes with Jimmy would probably be with Clark and Lois. Jimmy feels like he can talk to Clark because since Clark is the new guy and Jimmy is the kid, they're both in a similar position of trying to gain respect. Jimmy should probably meet Superman and be one of his biggest supporters in this movie, but I'm not sure how much Jimmy-Superman interaction would fit into the story. The scene I mentioned from Superman Secret Origin would probably be a good main scene with them for the movie. They're on the roof, and Jimmy feels depressed because of the thing with his parents, so Superman offers him some words of encouragement and allows him to take the first good picture of him. It's a pretty amusing scene because Superman is standing regularly, and Jimmy tells him that he feels like the picture is missing something. He then asks Superman to put his hands on his hips in the iconic Superman pose. Superman makes a comment about how it feels a little bit awkward, but he complies. The scene works on several levels. It gives Jimmy more of a backstory and more depth. It establishes their friendship. Whatever Superman tells Jimmy can help to establish Superman as an inspirational figure / nice guy. And it has the humor of the pose being a nod to the whole history of Superman. My choice for Jimmy for this movie would be Anton Yelchin. He's currently 22 years old, so I think he's the perfect age. I think Jimmy should be early 20s, mid-20s if the guy still looks young, but early 20s ideally. And I think he's just very well suited for the character. He's been in Star Trek, Charlie Bartlett, and Terminator Salvation. Those are some of his bigger roles. So if you want to check them out, check out those movies. Well, check out Star Trek and Charlie Bartlett. Terminator Salvation, not really that good, so probably shouldn't check that one out. Be brave, my son. Remember who you are and the legacy you carry inside you. I talked a lot about Jor-El earlier, so I'm not going to restate too much of that. He's much more emotional than other versions of Jor-El we've seen in the past, namely the Brando version. Very good version. No, I'm not knocking that, but this version is a lot more emotional than that. He knows his world is ending and no one will believe him. So he's in a very frustrated, almost panicked state because this feeling of helplessness is torture for him. Later, when Clark sees his message, you can see the sadness in him and you realize the pain he feels in knowing that he won't be able to be there for his son or see him grow up. Like I've said before, my version of Jor-El would be younger than many of the previous versions and take inspiration from the Superman the Animated Series version of Jor-El. My top choice for Jor-El would have to be Matthew Fox, best known for his role as Dr. Jack Shephard on the TV series Lost. I'm not quite sure why, but for some reason he just seems perfect for this role to me. It's probably partly due to the fact that he reminds me of the animated series version of Jor-El, both with the haircut and just in general. I think he would really feel similar to that version of the character, which is one of my favorite versions. He also bears a decent enough resemblance to Henry Cavill that I think it could work out well. I've heard rumors that they're looking to cast Daniel Day-Lewis as Jor-El, and he's a bigger name, a very well-respected actor, and I think he would probably do it well, but he's just not what I think Jor-El should be for this movie. I really think that Matthew Fox could be a great Jor-El for this. I'm not sure that it's going to happen. It's probably not, because I'm the only person I've ever heard say this, but here's hoping it does. Okay, well that's it for my take on the characters in this movie. Please check out the written version because I go into more detail about certain things like casting. I gave some casting choices for Superman and Lois in there that I didn't really talk about in this video because since they've already been casted, I didn't feel like it was necessary to waste time talking about who I would have chosen for this. But I think if you check it out there, it's still worth your time. So, thanks for watching. Please tune in next time. I still have one more section to go in this series in which I talk about kind of miscellaneous things like themes and focuses, costume, stuff that kind of sounds boring when I describe it, but it's still going to be interesting and it's going to be a nice wrap-up. So, thank you for watching. If you liked what you saw, please subscribe and tune in next time.